Welcome back, everybody. So glad you're here. We're going to be doing a little bit of a trans clay project. Just a little bit of clay needed here today. Gonna get it all rolled out. You can use any kind of translucent brand clay you want. I do prefer Premo. I think that it has a better consistency than the Sculpey. So that's what I would recommend, but honestly, you use what you got. If that's what you got, use what you got. Going to be doing some ink on the clay here. Now these colors, of course, are just totally optional. You do what you feel looks best together. I love experimenting with clay and clay colors and ink colors together. It's just a lot of fun. So kind of use whatever makes your heart sing. Using some yellow. I don't use yellow enough. I think it comes out very, very pretty on polymer clay. Just need to put a little bit on there and then mix it up. Honestly, you can make it as dark as you want it. I'm kind of going for a little bit of a lighter base here. It didn't actually show through as much as I was hoping it would. Also, the other colors I used became a little bit overpowering. So maybe I'll try this again or something similar in another video and have a little bit more of that sunshine yellow coming through. Just gonna chop it up. Lots and lots of chopping here. Gonna get it into pretty small pieces. I'm kind of going a little bit by a little bit here. This is just old makeup powders. You can use mica powders if that's what you want to use. I just really don't wear makeup, quite honestly, and I've had people buy me makeup and I'm always like, I don't know what to do with it. So I kind of just decided to start using it in the clay. It has nice little glittery pieces in it. It's very fine and it doesn't really affect the texture of the clay. So I'm just going to kind of mix that up and get it as best coated as I can. And then once it's all coated, I'll go ahead and do a little bit more chopping. Each time I do some chopping, I'll add some more glitter powder on there. This would be really pretty too if you just used glitter. Now I don't usually like to use glitter on clay that I'm going to be doing a lot of cutting through because it does kind of tear it up, but if you want to take the time to just kind of smooth out the edges, you could probably use some glitter in there. It's really best to kind of get the clay that already has glitter in it because they have it so fine that it's not going to affect any cutting. I'm not really cutting away a whole lot on this. I just kind of wanted to show you the process. So I am going to be a little bit more thorough than I am in a lot of my videos. I do a lot of cutting away. You know, I'm like, oh, hey, you kind of do this, and then I'll cut away because I don't really feel like most people want to see that. They kind of want to see the meat of the project. But it was just kind of important, I think, to kind of show you the steps on this one, just making sure you kind of see how I got to the end chopped up piece. So really, I'm going to be using a ton of this glitter powder in there. Now, by a ton, I don't mean like the whole package, but it's going to be definitely a lot more than I normally use. I want to make sure that each piece is very thoroughly coated, and also kind of when chopping, it'll help mix it up that way too. You can make it as thin as you want to. I'm kind of going for very like crumb-like texture here. So this is it. It looks so pretty. I honestly just want it to like smooth this out and then just cut something out of it because I don't know, something about that appeals to me, like the colors and texture of all that. I want to convey that in like a piece of polymer clay jewelry. So you could actually do that too if you want to. You could experiment, maybe take away half of your pile and play with it and then use the other half for the rest of this project. Going to be using some bacon bond in here, and that's just because of all of the powders I used in there. It kind of, you know, inhibits the ability for the clay to want to stick together. So just helping it out a little bit. I did have to put 2 different squirts in there about that same size. I didn't show you the second one, but mix it until it's pretty damp, but you don't want it to be soggy. You don't want it to be like mushy where it's really, really hard to work with. So kind of find that delicate balance there. Just getting it into a pile and gonna start forming it and getting it to stick together. I don't want to completely like roll it flat at this point. I just kind of want to get it stuck together. I was kind of hoping I would get a little bit more of that chunky cut up kind of a sectioned piece look to it in my final piece, but with all the other steps that I did, it kind of muddied the waters, if you will. And these are the colors that I chose for my inks, just 3 different ones. I just thought they looked pretty together. I was kind of wanting to go for something bright and vibrant. It's going to be, getting into the winter months, and we gotta keep our spirits up with something bright and beautiful. Maybe I shouldn't have used so much pink too. When you get to the end, you'll kind of see that I used a little too much pink, I think. But, I really, really like this contrast in colors between the blue and that pretty yellow, tanny kind of color going on in the back. Then I'm just adding my green on there. And then for the final one, I will add some pink on there. Just dabbing it on there on the end of the paintbrush. I didn't want to have the entire background completely covered, but I just started going berserk and just started dabbing and dotting, and before I knew it, the whole thing was pink. Now, if I was to do this again, because I kind of know the outcome of it, that's kind of what I want it to look like. Just dotted, sectioned pieces where you could still kind of see a little bit of the colors in the background. I am impatient, and I didn't want to wait, and I had a lot of other things going on today. So I was like, I got to get this done. So in my haste, folks, it didn't come out the way I wanted it to. In the future, if I do this again, maybe I will, I'm going to let it dry completely with all that alcohol ink. So a couple of hours, maybe tops, and then I'll come back and finish the project. I just feel like the pink kind of overtook it, and it wasn't really what I was going for in my mind. But if you're a lot like me, by the time you get done with your project, it probably isn't going to come out the way you want it, because that's exactly what happens in life and everything else in my mind. It just doesn't come out the way I want it. Then I'm going to put some grooves in there. I want it to get the grooves pretty much almost all the way to the bottom. I don't want to cut all the way through the clay or anything like that. Just get them pretty deep, like gouges in there. And then I'm going to put some powders on here to kind of fill in all of those little gaps. Now, if you wanted to, you could just stop right here. It's got a really nice texture, I think, to it. So if you wanted just to kind of cut out a piece and bake it, I think it would have a really nice texture. Sometimes the texture of a piece of polymer clay is kind of fun to look at. Like a lot of times, a lot of, I think, polymer clay artists, myself included, kind of going for that smooth, glossy, beautiful stone polished look. And sometimes I just can't stop myself from perfecting the piece. But I really think that the texture, I don't know, might be kind of fun in some pieces. I didn't have any baby wipes or anything like that, but if you have baby wipes, use baby wipes, and then just wipe off the excess on the top, so you kind of have the little lines still with all the pieces of the powder stuck inside of there, just so you can kind of get a little bit of that groove pattern to it. And you'll notice that I did not smooth it out. I resisted the urge. And I'm not really worried about the back, because I'm actually going to fold this in half, and then the front and the back will both match. You could put a solid clay color on the back if you wanted to. It's totally up to you, but I'm really kind of just wanting to get one set of jewelry out of this. I don't want to make a whole bunch of pieces. So just going to go ahead and fold it in half, and then lightly use my roller to kind of get it stuck together. I don't really want to damage too much of the surface here, so just make sure it's nice and stuck. You could smooth it out if you wanted to, but you're going to lose those little jagged grooves that you got going on. And then from here, honestly, you could cut out whatever you wanted to, just cutting off the excess pieces here that don't match up in the back. And I'm gonna go ahead and use this cutout to make some pieces. It's always the dilemma of what I want to make. Sometimes I have an idea of the clay and, the pattern I want to make, which never comes out the way I wanted. And then sometimes better, sometimes worse. And then, trying to figure out what I'm going to make from it. Also, I did like a little scrap clay project from the little bit of bits and pieces I had left. You can really do whatever you wanted to, but I am going to make a tiny little piece out of this. Just wanted to show you what I did so that when I show you here in a moment, you'll know what it is. And it came out pretty similar to the clay project that I made. So it wasn't like, earth-shatteringly different. So that is it. It's a very smooth piece. I didn't put any of the lines in there, and I did, iron flat roll it out. So that's the front and the back, and I did put a little bit of resin on there, obviously. This will be a necklace. And then this is the piece. And I think it came out really, really cute. I would, like I said, like a little bit more color besides the pink, but it came out really pretty. I don't know. You can kind of see a little bit of the yellow there on the left side, little splotches of it. I wish I had a little bit more of that. And then, of course, you can see the texture and the lines in there. So I really, really enjoyed it. I hope you had fun with the little project that I did, and I hope to see you next week. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!